So welcome to Family Place Libraries, Parenting Little Ones Q&A. I'm Milissa Fellers, a librarian, I can't talk today, with the East Library. And today's topic is speech and development. And we are joined by two panelists, Brenda Anderson, a speech pathologist with the Resource Exchange, and Paula Hergert, a prevention and policy specialist with the Maternal Child Health Program of El Paso County Health Department. Quite a mouthful. Brenda, would you like to tell us a little bit about the Resource Exchange and your background and what questions you can answer?
Sure. I am a speech-language pathologist. I've focused primarily on pediatric services, so 0 to about 10 years of age. I've been doing speech pathology for the last 28 years, and I work currently at the Resource Exchange, which provides a variety of services from 0 pretty much to 99. And however, the focus that I have is in the early intervention program, which is the 0 to 3 program. So we provide early intervention services to those children in need. That is a free program that is offered in El Paso County. And that's pretty much, we provide occupational, physical therapy, speech therapy, DI, which is a developmental interventionist who is trained in all areas of development. We have a nutritionist, we have a behavioral specialist. We have psychological, social, emotional supports for families as well. And what's nice is it's all currently, it's usually home-based, but of course right now, due to the pandemic, we are currently doing telehealth sessions. So, and I can answer therapy strategy, provide strategies and answer questions as they relate to typical development of 0 to 3 in the areas of speech language.
Thank you. And now, Paula, would you tell us a little bit about Maternal Child Health Program, your background, and the types of questions you can answer?
Yes, my name is Paula Hergert, and I do work for El Paso County Public Health in the Maternal Child Division. My history, though, I was a teacher for 35 years. And I retired, and then the health department had a position, and it was titled Community Health Educator. And the role of this position was to try to decrease bullying and suicide in our community. El Paso County took the upstream approach, which means what they wanted to have this position focus on is what can we do in the lives of very young children so that bullying behavior is not an outcome, or so that suicide isn't one of their options to manage their stress. And so what happened when I came into this position and started looking and researching this topic in greater depth, because I was a health teacher, but what I found was that the true upstream work would be to help families, youth serving organizations and schools to understand what trauma and toxic stress is doing to a developing brain. And the health department has given me their blessing to move in that direction. And so you later will see a short video, it's 4 minutes, that basically we could do 4 to 6 hours easy as far as training on the different topics that are going to come up. And speech and brain development, Brenda, if you'll agree, they go so hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And the early childhood experiences can change how that develops. So I am willing to try to field any question that you give me. If I do not know the answer today, I will write that question down, find the answer, and I will get it to Milissa for you, and she can forward those answers or resources to you. Before I stop, there is one So I usually work with groups, but please, all parents, El Paso County Public Health has an arm of the Maternal Child Health organization that is called HCP. And people always say, what does that stand for? It used to stand for Handicapped Children's Program. It doesn't stand for that anymore. But what they are a group that provides free care coordination for any family that has a child that might have some sort of issue that is impacting development, learning, behavior. And there does not have to be a diagnosis. Money is not, or insurance is not a deterrent. And they will work with a family and a child from 0 to 21 years of age. So I will send Milissa that information if you want to make contact, and it could literally be a parent referral. Doesn't have to be a school or a practitioner. So please make sure that you have that information down there. Great group of gals that help with that.
No, thank you. Well, I am going to show just a very brief, it's a 4-minute video that was, it's on the science of early child development, and it was put together by the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University. But while you're watching this, there are already some questions popping up in Q&A. If you have any questions, just put them in the Q&A as we move along, and then we will open it up to questions right after this video. So let me see if I can make it work. Oops. There we go. Oh, hit share. Okay, sorry. Please let me know.
The healthy development of young children in the early years of life literally does provide a foundation for just about all of the challenging social problems that our society and other societies face. What we're learning, not just from behavioral and developmental research, but also now from exciting developments in neuroscience and molecular biology, is how much early experience from birth, in fact, even before birth, how much this experience literally gets into our bodies and shapes our learning capacities, our behaviors, and our physical and mental health. The brain is basically built from the bottom up. First, the brain builds basic circuits that are responsible for basic skills, and then more complex circuits are built on top of those basic circuits as we develop more complex skills. Biologically, the brain is prepared to be shaped by experience. It's expecting the experiences that a young child has to literally influence the formation of its circuitry. It's built into our biology. The interaction between genetics and experience that shapes brain architecture is embedded in the reciprocal relationships that children have with adults in their lives. And by that we mean what we refer to as the serve and return nature of children's interaction with their adults. Development and the impact of experience on development is not a one-way street. It's a back and forth interaction. The brain is a highly integrated organ which has multiple sections that specialize in different kind of processes. So we have parts of the brain that are involved more in cognitive function, and other parts that are involved in processing of emotion, and parts involved in seeing and hearing. So if a child is emotionally kind of well put together and socially competent, that will affect more positive and productive learning. And if a child is preoccupied with fears or anxiety, or is dealing with considerable stress, no matter how intellectually gifted that child might be, his or her learning is going to be impaired by that kind of emotional interference. So when we talk about healthy development in the early years, and particularly when we talk about preparing children to succeed in school, we cannot separate cognitive development from social and emotional development. You can't have one without the other. All development builds on what comes before. So when children experience stable, nurturing relationships, it fosters the development of healthy circuitry. And when children experience uncertainty or instability or abusive or neglectful relationships, it literally disrupts the circuitry and the brain's architecture as it's being built. Over time, this has a wear and tear effect, and the more stress you have, the more causes of stress, and the longer your stress response, the more likely you are to have a whole range of problems later on. It can affect the immune system, it can affect the cardiovascular system, and this is why excessive, prolonged stress early in life is associated with a higher prevalence later, not only of learning problems and behavior difficulties, but also physical and mental health problems. Because the brain is optimally flexible and plastic early in life, but as it develops its circuitry and refines its circuitry, it loses some of its flexibility, which is why intervening early is so important, because as we often say, when it comes to brain circuitry, it's better to get it right the first time than to try to fix it later.
Okay.
So perfectly put.
It is, I know. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful short video that covers so much. There are a few questions here. Any other questions? The first question, though, has to do with the winners for the drawings. And I wanted to let you know, we will give everyone, today is Thursday, so we will give everyone until next Thursday. And I'm sorry, I don't know what day of the week what actual physical date it is, to submit their surveys, and then a drawing will take place later that day on Thursday, and the winner will be notified shortly after. As far as the grand prize, because this is the last session, the grand prize drawing will take place after that last prize for today. And then the next question that I have is one that says, my 30-month-old is having issues using I, you, me correctly. Sometimes he will use the correct pronoun, but most of the time he mixes them up. Is this normal for this age? And should I be modeling for him the correct pronoun when he mixes them up? Do you want to?
Sure, this is normal development. Typical, and absolutely, if you can model appropriately and just calmly, if he's making she's going there, she is going there, or he is having this, just so that he begins to hear the appropriate language. The more he hears it correctly, the more likely he will begin to use it in his typical language every day. Sure.
Thank you. And Paula, I think this one is for you. It says, we've seen more anxiety in our 4-year-old during the past few months. Some issues are probably our own anxieties with COVID-19. What are some suggestions to help build up social emotional development during COVID-19? And then it says, we are seeing increased temper tantrums, clinginess, more crying. How much of this is him trying to figure out his own emotions versus our anxieties impacting him?
So that's a big question. So make sure that I answer all this. Number one is that everybody's anxiety is up with COVID, and that's just a reality. A thing that we're learning about neuroscience in the brain is that we do have mirror neurons. Kids are very, very sensitive and will pick up on your emotions. It's called emotional contagion. So some of the tantrums, those type of things that are happening, reverting a little bit back to behavior that was acceptable at a younger age. And what happens when people are in stress, we tend to actually revert. For example, we even, as we stress and we move up what's called the arousal continuum, how we manage problems even becomes less mature, because we don't think as clearly. So first thing I would suggest for any parents, number one, I'm going to give you 3 R's. They're really easy to remember. Regulate, relate, reason. And reason means teach or trying to use logic. So let's talk first about regulate. This is Bruce, his name is Dr. Bruce Perry. He is an expert on childhood trauma and neurodevelopment. The first thing we need to do in regulate is regulate ourselves. So part of that regulation is spending time to do self-care, even if you have to ask for help. We have to get ourselves regulated. As a teacher, I had to make sure before I entered a classroom every day that I was regulated, because if I am dysregulated, I am going to dysregulate the child in the room. A dysregulated parent will never regulate a child. A dysregulated parent can actually dysregulate a regulated child. So first we have to regulate ourselves. We need to talk about what we're doing with the child as we're doing it so they understand your thought process and start engaging in self-care with you. That's my suggestion. Brenda, do you have any thoughts to add on that?
No, especially when you're, I'm thinking about little toddlers that are really struggling. You're going to see some of that regression in communication. You're going to see that increase in behavior. So like you say, in building on some of that is regulating, is maintaining consistency and using language, as you're saying, really supporting that, talking about what's going on, as well as finding some of those comfort things, such as simple relaxation, breathing exercises. Even kid yoga is really fun. We do that in some of our therapy sessions, when we know that the kids haven't been out and getting that exploration that they need. Yeah.
Right. And some of the most successful interventions are things like movement, rhythm, music. But like Brenda said, boy, those schedules are extremely important. Those routines are extremely important because that creates safety as well. So I hope that answers the question.
And if it didn't completely answer it, you can, extend or add into it, but I think you did cover it very well. Thank you. The next question we have is going back to speech, and it is, how can we increase speech in our 2-year-old? What type of speech activities can we use for them or with them?
Well, like I was sharing with one of my families yesterday, it was just kind of funny because a lot of times we'll turn on the computer, or right now we're doing a face-to-face at a park or outdoor facility. So yesterday it was a little cold, but we were talking about communication and speech and how, and what's really nice about communication is we have to do it every day. Every time, every 5 minutes, every second. So we're using both verbal and nonverbal cues to get our needs and wants met. So activities would be to really focus on what he enjoys. I think we all as adults get stuck in, oh, let's do this. Let's do this. Whereas letting him or her choose activities that he enjoys doing and finding yourself embedding or emerging in his play. I had a session this morning at 8:30 at the park, and we were talking more about that. He was kicking snow and smashing snowballs and jumping on the bleachers and making really loud noises. And it wasn't something Mom was really comfortable with, but we joined in, and that lasted our whole session. And we got more language and I think that Mom was very happy and surprised at the words that came out. And not only was there new words that were emerging, but there was also engagement and interactions and eye contact and turn taking. And we left both kind of like wanting to hug each other because he had made some really nice progress, but it was because we followed his lead in the play today and really showed mom how to lead, let him lead the play and let it be okay that it wasn't structured or it wasn't really specific, that it was, he had a blast with it. And it was really enjoyable. So in summary, it's just following their lead. When they're doing something fun, sit down and join in. Or if you're planning something, plan something and let him engage with you and create this wonderful turn-taking opportunity where you're sharing and he's sharing, but the biggest piece is getting him to share with you. So, and what do you think about that, Paula, in regards to some of that stressful times? I mean, trying to change up where we're all kind of in the house and we're all like, oh, so building some of that in, I was thinking would be a great opportunity.
I had to just smile at that because I think what we're learning about play, and play is plays such an important role in executive function, and just letting kids play and they mimic you and they lead it. And for an adult to do parallel play with a child is an amazing opportunity to create this attachment and attunement that is essential for the rest of their life. And so that Brenda, the thought about, jumping in puddles and, throwing snowballs, what a blast. And it also, to me, it creates this feeling of this kid is good and he's okay and he's valued and all those wonderful things that children need.
And we didn't have a tablet or any kind of electronics or any kind of light up toy. We just used what we had today at the park, which was a whole lot of nothing, but we had a lot. We had the trucks working in the background. They were drilling something and pushing dirt, and the snow was cold and the sun was hot. And there was just so much language that you really just need to just immerse what you have available and, get rid of the devices and the toys and just get on the floor and play.
Bruce Perry, in the video from Harvard, Milissa, I would send that out to folks because that website is free to everyone, and there's videos on every question you have about childhood development. But the idea about a reciprocal relationship has nothing to do with a tablet. A tablet or a TV is not reciprocal. And there was some big child development program that came out that kids were supposed to watch TV and learned, and it flopped because children learn in relationship and they learn in reciprocal play. And it's more powerful than anything you can do on a phone or a tablet.
There was one of the, I'm sure that, and I know that when I went to do we did like a little question answer at the library during one of the presentations, and Write by Text is a great program that families can use to access different activities throughout the day if they're not quite sure. I probably get 2 a day off my phone that gives you different ideas and strategies. Like a cold winter day, you can do this, or when you're sorting laundry, you can do this. So that would be a really nice recommendation if you guys have that, Milissa, on your website. I know that it's in the library flyer, but Write by Text, you can add it to your phone, and you get simultaneous texts every day, even on Saturdays and Sundays, that let you know great activities that you can be doing with your kiddo. That's amazing, that you wouldn't even think about, but they're so simple. But people forget because they feel like they need something.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I will include that in the email I send out, because we have the write by text information, and it's so nice because you pinpoint it to the age of your children, and you can have multiple ages. So you will receive texts geared specifically for your kids. So it is a
Yeah. And the other one I was thinking of too is the app that you can put on your phone. It's called Milestone Tracker by this, and it's put out by the CDC.
Okay.
And it's in the App Store, and you can just download it. And again, it's one of those, just like Bright by Star, you put in your child's birth date, and it helps you track all of the developmental milestones. And it looks at, I think it looks at fine motor and gross motor, and speech and social emotional. It looks at all components. So it's really a nice tool as parents are looking through it. You can set up certain appointments, and so it's a really nice tool for parents to use on their own, so that they can feel that comfort of, oh, okay, we're doing great here.
Good deal. And I wanted to real quick ask Paula, you had mentioned parallel play when you were talking a minute ago, and just so parents are, maybe if they're not really sure of what that means, would you mind just explaining that just briefly?
It's playing side by side. Brenda talked about getting down on the floor, and it's all about getting down on their level. If they're coloring, go color with them, because when they color, and you don't even have to have a conversation, because they'll lead you into conversation if they want to.
Yeah.
And it's this side-by-side play, especially this works really well with kids that have had a history of trauma, or something that's gone on where there is a little bit of fear and anxiety involved in a relationship, like a lot of kids that are in the system and are in foster homes. But side-by-side play, if you think about the first time you go out on a date, speaking about side-by-side play, a lot of times we don't sit and look at each other eye to eye. We walk and talk. We do something side by side. And that is a really comfortable thing for kids, and let them guide and lead that, but just be down on their level. Play blocks, color, do the things that they're doing. That's parallel play. You're not creating it for them. You're letting them create the play, and you're just doing it alongside.
Thank you.
The other piece I wanted to build on that, sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
I love that idea. The other piece too is when you're reading stories and you're playing, is trying to be next to, but in front of. So from a speech pathologist standpoint, you want them to see what your face is doing, and what your face is portraying, and what sounds you're making, and how sounds are made, because some kids struggle with speech production. Maybe not so much when they're, 2.5, well, a 2.5, you start to say, gosh, I can't understand them. Those are that's normal development, where they're struggling with simplifying, adult speech. But, it would be easier for you to sit across from them, so that they can watch as you're talking. So that, like today, I wanted this little boy, but we were both wearing masks, so it was hard to say snow and smash and slop and all of those big words. I mean, I was being dramatic, but so those would be words that you could be using, but the kids could be able to watch your mouth, using gestures, using visual cues to support those when kids are having problems, working in front of a mirror that will substantiate that, so that they can see how it all happens. Because like you were saying, Paula, they're walking around, they're imitating what parents are doing, how they're walking, how they're talking on the phone, what they're doing. So it's building on some of those areas that are less intrusive. I know the first thing that a lot of people will say, look at me, look at me. And I tend to just take their hand and I might put it on my chin back in the day when we were allowed to do that. Or, you know, I might tap them on the shoulder, and of course that hand, or take that toy and say, cup or bottle. They're more willing to follow the item so that you can practice that. So that's a really nice tool I try to use versus look at me, because after a while, look at me, I'm not looking at you. That kind of turns a kiddo or other people off. So I try to find different strategies that can give you that same success.
Thank you. Now, here's another question we have. It says, my oldest daughter is 2.5 years old. She has probably over 1,000 words and can speak in full sentences. We did a lot to get her involved and to create new experiences, but I'm worried about my 4-month-old daughter and COVID. We have been staying home a lot, and I worry she just isn't getting those same experiences, the same social interactions as my first daughter did. Should I be really concerned about this? Number one, what can I do? We are a military family, so our girls can't really get that extended family to visit. There you go.
Based from my background, and I'm not speech, but
Sure.
talk all the time. Tell the kids what you're doing when you're thinking. Talk. Actually, 4-month-olds, probably it's about you right now. Not so much other people. It's all about the parent. Brenda, I don't know if you'd agree, but I would not worry, and just keep talking. Talk to each other around your child. There's a great video if you ever watch it. It is this man, and he's having a full-blown conversation with a toddler watching a football game. There's not one word that is spoken by the toddler that you can even understand, but the gestures, the tone, every full-blown conversation without a single word. This is what it's all about. It's the serve and return, and that's on my background. Now, Brenda might have a different thought on speech.
No, I'm thinking more about that social emotional piece, that, you know, keeping it calm, keeping it organized, keeping your structure and your routine really the way it always has been. And there's plenty of time to organize and pick up where, you know, whether your older daughter went to daycare or was in a structured program. These are all activities. Again, speech and language and social emotional all play hand in hand. And if we're supporting a young little nurturing little girl, things will happen. Things will happen on their own. It's just the piece of keeping things organized and calm and using lots of language when you can.
Calm and safety is so essential, and this consistent nurturing relationship. It is like the doctor said on that, it is the basis for everything in life, because these are the relationship templates they take into the rest of their life. And this wonderful time you're getting with your child at home is so meaningful. And yeah, I wouldn't worry, but.
Well, especially at 4 months, you know, as long as she is young, healthy, and she's remaining healthy. I think that what's nice is you've got great opportunities for her to learn at home and experience her older sister and participate in little activities. But she's so little at this point that it will all come together.
Yeah, and this social emotional learning is is all comes back to this attachment with your parent, and how good is the parent, and how does the parent treat other people in their life. They're picking up on those little things even before there's language. They're watching and they're learning even if there isn't verbiage.
Thank you. And I also wanted to, because they mentioned that they're a military family. So you could possibly do like a FaceTime, because I know screen time is not the greatest, but if you're doing that, still having that give and take, that serve and return with a grandparent or a relative, I would assume it would still have the same impact. Do you agree, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's that. Okay, let me see. I'm going back and forth because I have questions in two different places. Then next question is based on this. They have a 1-year-old who's actually 14 months. How many words should he be able to say at this point?
About 5 to 10 words. 5 words: mama, dada, maybe labeling his bottle, as well as some other sound combinations that would indicate some of his familiar items, like maybe ba for bear, or cup for cup, or ta, or ba for bottle. Yeah.
Okay.
And mama, and maybe beginning to say mama and dada.
Let me see. I'm looking to Owen. Actually, the next question is for me. How will the recording be available? And you will, will transfer this recording to the PPLD YouTube channel, which I will provide you information with that, and you will be able to watch it at that point. Then we have one more question here, which is, how do I know if my child needs a speech assessment? I understand him, but others do not find his speech intelligible.
Well, the first thing that you could do is you could reach out to your pediatrician, and or you can call it the Resource Exchange. We provide free evaluations, or you can, depending on if you are familiar with where you live in regards to the districts, and you can reach out to the districts, and they conduct evaluations as well.
So the group HCP would take this on too. You just call them, and then what they help you do is find a speech therapist or a if you don't have a pediatrician, or if you need some type of services, they help you find those, and they make a lot of those phone calls for you, because we know that families are stressed and they're busy and sometimes overwhelmed, and it's hard to do all of that while having all this other stress in your life. And so that is another resource that can kind of do that go between, like what Brenda was talking about. If you don't have a pediatrician, maybe they can help organize that for you.
Okay. Let me see, don't have any other questions at the current time, so I was going to look through here and see what some other questions are that I have thought of. Paula had talked about the well, you didn't talk about them in depth, but what are the 6 core strengths that really help your child to become a healthy individual?
First one is attachment. Brenda, if we want, I put a little bit of a PowerPoint together if we want to show that.
You're more than welcome to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to close my chat so I can. All right, share screen. So let me go back here. And let's go ahead and just start here. Now, if I can get to, my problem is, if I'm going to have to minimize so I can get to slideshow. So the very first one is attachment. And if you do any research on attachment, this is truly the most essential thing that can happen in the life of a child. So it's this ability to form and maintain relationships. So like I said before, it's this first relationship that becomes a template for all other relationships. So if a child lives in a home where they don't feel safe and they are witnessing violence or some other sort of trauma, and that's the relationship with the adult, every adult that comes into their life, until we do something to change that neural pathway, they are going to see adults as unsafe. So that serve and return relationship where we are attaching and creating this relationship, those mirror neurons, when you smile at a baby, they smile back. When they smile at you, you smile. It's this serve and return, all those things that we are doing to create relationship with our children. So that's the first one. And I'm going to skip, if we want to go back to these, I guess we could, do we want to do strategies or just talk about the 6?
Do you want to just talk about this attachment strategy? And then I did have a couple more questions pop up. And I'm having at least one person is not able to view your screen.
I don't,
but
I'm not sure how to help.
Yeah, that I don't know. But do you want to just talk about the strategies for promoting attachment, and then we can answer the other 2 questions and then come back?
We've really kind of talked about most of these already too.
Well,
we can hit them because Brenda's talking about it as far as speech and speech development, and I'm talking about, you know, creating healthy children that they can learn in school and their behavior is healthy. So we talked about eliminating distractions and getting down on their level, literally getting down on their level. I want you to know, please, that this information is all taken from Dr. Bruce Perry, and I've been trained as, it's called a neurosequential model in education framework. All this information is from Dr. Bruce Perry. It's not something that's just coming out of my head. It's research based, and I think that's important for people to know. Rock, talk, coo to your baby, touch your baby, look in their eyes, this undivided attention. When Brenda was talking about outside, and you had sounds and you had smells and you had touch and you had all these things happening, that's what we mean by a somatosensory bath, that all these things are coming together to create this internal sensation. We do want to encourage attachments with other loving adults that are safe, because that again is this repetition and this pattern that creates a certain pathway in their brain. Dr. Perry suggests not too many adults because it can be a little bit confusing on who's the primary caregiver. And that we should always demonstrate healthy nonverbal social and emotional language in our other relationships. The mirror neurons, they're watching how we treat other people. That's part of that attachment in the learning. And this idea about, very, very important, about being attuned. And that's our second strength. So I'll go into that a little more, but being attuned means, I know somebody's already talked about having 2 children. I was 1 out of 5. Attunement means that a parent can see how 2 children are different. They may have different needs. They manage stress in different ways. So how they react in context, and that sometimes trying to meet those needs before they actually have to verbalize it to us. That's attunement. Also to let the infant, child, and youth, they're going to want to explore. They explore in different ways, but always be home base. They need to come back and recharge. And sometimes that's just being quiet with you, feeling safe with you within your sphere. Any questions, Brenda or Milissa, on attachment?
Do you have anything? No, I do have a question that someone has about engagement with other children. I'm going to share that one real quick because we're getting near the end of the program. But also, I wanted to. There was a comment earlier someone had about agreeing with the Bright by Text. So thank you, Brenda, for bringing that up. They feel that they're amazing and that they've saved so many of the references just because you get a quick reference on your phone and you have an idea of something to do. Now, here's the other question someone just posed was, what about 2-year-olds that can't really play with other kids right now because of COVID? I'm a stay-at-home mom and I engage with my child constantly, but nothing is as wonderful as having that interaction with other children. So do you have any suggestions, ideas?
Absolutely. Based on the pandemic, we are unfortunately where we are at. It's a really big struggle. And I know that many of us, because this is probably the first true crisis in many, many years that we're feeling like, what do you mean we can't go out? We can't go to the park. We can't, schedule play dates. So, you are your child's best friend and greatest playmate. So, keeping in mind what a 2-year-old would be like, I think that it's hard to really, when you get on the floor, trying to remember what it's like to be 2 or trying to mirror what a 2-year-old would be so that they're getting those opportunities. It's my turn. Oh, then it's your turn. And keeping in mind those language cues that you want to institute and really teach your child. It was, again, I've been doing this so long, so I always have simple examples about what has happened. So for instance, really just, I was watching a mom as I was demonstrating, and I think she was a little amazed by how childlike I got, because there was some opportunities where I really wanted to play with this toy and this little boy wanted to take the toy and vice versa. And so there was, no, my turn. And once he began to learn some of those language strategies and imitate some of those cues that I was trying to demonstrate to him, he mastered them and he got it. And he was like, oh, so now when we play together, unfortunately, it's been a while, but he would be really successful with, he knew that when we played, we truly played and we took turns. It wasn't that, oh, just because he whined or said something, he got what he wanted. It was like, no, you have to really tell me my turn or ball or car, something that would motivate. So really just trying to get down on the floor, but also getting down to their level of development and trying to play alongside them. And I'm not saying to insult anyone, but we have to keep in mind that we are trying to expand on this communication, as well as play skills, as well as teaching them how to play differently with a toy. Like the day I picked up a block and I was talking on the phone, I think even the parent was a little perplexed. It's not a phone. It's not a phone. It's a block. And I'm like, I know, we're pretending. So it's building in and remembering what it's like to be a kid and making it as fun, because again, you're going to keep your child engaged more if you're being silly and goofy than if you're being mom. So keeping that in mind as you're playing.
Yeah, and Brett, teaching all those skills like how to share and take turns, and those types of things that are very important. One of the core developmental skills is affiliation, and so we have attachment and we have attunement, and teaching children how to self-regulate and start doing that for themselves. Adults always have to help kids regulate, and then the fourth one is affiliation. We have to help kids learn how to be with others. And it depends on age, But my sister, a first grade teacher, said she has 5-year-olds that had no idea how to play a game and take turns, which then causes issues with other children that have learned those skills. And if they're kind of marginalized early on, it just gets bigger as we go. So just keep working on the things with your child that would be happening with kids, like Brenda said. I think that's our only option right now. And it's sad that COVID is going to have a toll on our youth and these generations for a long time, because they are missing opportunities. Sad to say.
Just keeping it fun, keeping it enjoyable and fun for everyone. You know, be silly. This is you have to embrace this opportunity as well, because many of these, during this time, if many of these families are dual working parents, and you're getting this great opportunity to spend time with your child, even though it's a stressful time. What a great opportunity to embrace it with teaching them some of these great things that you probably did when you were a child, that were really those memorable times that were super fun and super cool. And you just do them in your home. You know, you're building a tent in your house, and in your living room with all those old blankets and chairs, and it's just making the best of what you have and making it fun. And your children will embrace this opportunity where it's like, wow, I have mom and dad's attention. I get to do this, and this is so cool. Because if you were working, those would be missed opportunities that someone else would be doing at a daycare.
And Brenda, laughter too, right? Is such it is such a bonding agent, because all those amazing chemicals that are released in our brain, and it's creating those neural pathways, that with the oxytocin and everything that's going on in there.
Just the great listen, when I had opportunities, tickle time is so awesome, and listening to their laughter is so, and their anticipation of it coming. It's even just that kind of engagement is so, and just building those routines with children can make it, this can be a really hard time, but in some aspects, it can be the most wonderful time, because you're at home with your children. I mean, sure, you can go outside, and there are more little opportunities where you can go to the park and find quiet spots to play, or, I've been at the park at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's been my whole therapy area for the whole, the big, huge playground, because no one gets there at 8 o'clock unless it's been 90 degrees. Yes. But you can just have a blast, and you can find a spot outside, so you can change things up so that it's not as exhausting, creating little fun opportunities. But like I said, if most people can sign on to that Bright by Text, just a wonderful, even on Saturdays and Sundays, I get it just to see what's happening. And there's always a fun activity to incorporate, going on a nature hike, going on a scavenger hunt. Many of my kids that need to work on vocabulary and speech development, I tell parents, take a bunch of stuff and throw it outside in the backyard, and let's take a basket and look under the leaves, look on the leaves, look on the swing, let's, look on the chair, look under the chair, so that we are not only incorporating, there's so much language and so many opportunities, and whoa, you found that. That is so awesome. So that's what's nice about language. It can be happening all the time.
And the hike don't matter how far you get.
Yeah.
Yes.
It may be 25 yards.
And that's we're nearing the end, but also I was going to mention too, when you guys were both talking about play, is that is the way the kids learn everything. And just in playing with them, you're building their vocabulary, and they're helping them with their language. And then they'll just be ready to, what I call, hit the ground running when they get into kindergarten. They'll be so prepared to learn. So you're just really setting them up for success
great social emotional learning in play.
Yeah,
Executive function is being built in play.
absolutely.
Mm.
So
I love
much.
that.
And we've got about 2 more minutes, so we're going to have to wrap it up now. Sorry, I don't know what I just did here. Paula, someone wants to know if you can come, if you're available for hire, for rent, to come for partner about raising their children. But thank you both for joining us here today. We really appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. And I'd like to thank everyone, for all the participants, the parents and caregivers, for attending today. And I just want to let you know, this is the final Q&A session for this time, October, and we will be looking to plan some of these probably in 2021. I will send the survey out a little bit later this afternoon. You will have until next Thursday to submit it to me, to return it, and then I will do the drawings. And I will be sending out in the email, it looks like we'll have a lot of attachments, so I may do a couple of emails, because I will send, Brenda has already sent me some flyers about the resource exchange and some information about Teach Me to Talk. And then I know, Paula, we were going to share your PowerPoint or some information, and then I was going to link up that video, the Harvard video, because it's wonderful. And that website does have a lot of other great resources for you. And then finally, I want to let you know, or ask you to check out our Family and Children's Services programs playlist on PPLD TV's YouTube channel. I will put a link to that in the email as well, because it can take a little hunting on your part to find it on our website. So I'll make sure I send you that link so it's easier for you. And I hope that you all have a great rest of your day.
Lisa, please feel free to contact
Okay.
me. So
I will,
absolutely.
I will put that information there. Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much.